Hello and welcome back to Shelf Center. This is Bryce. Thank you so much for stopping by. Thanks for liking and subscribing if this is something you end up enjoying. You know, it could happen. Anyway, I have been talking about this, I realized, since September of not last year, but the year before. So almost 2 years now, I've been wanting to do my top 100 videos. Almost since the inception of the channel here. I'm finally doing it. I've been agonizing over the list, but there comes a point where you just kind of like, got to go with it, and that's finally what I decided to do. So just jumping on it, getting my list up, and getting going. This is my other bookshelf. Sometimes I've learned you just got to film when you got the chance, and so that's really what this channel really is all about, is me trying to get in wherever I can and film something. So anyway, I thought that Matt's Book Reviews and Treebeard did it the best in that they kind of broke things up into chunks and made this more of a series instead of like an hour or two long video. And you know, nothing like milking the algorithm, right? But for real, it seems the most manageable. On top of it, you can then just put a playlist at the end and then make that a really easy, just, you know, jump from video to video. So without further ado, this is my top 100 fantasy books or series of all time. I'm going to start with 100 through 91. A couple caveats here. There's always some reason or something that you got to put into the list to just, again, make it manageable. I've been stressing about this for too long. I'm just like, let's just shoot it. So one of the things is, I put a series, I just put the whole series instead of like individual books. Maybe one day I can do an individual book, like top whatever, because that'll definitely be an inflated list, maybe a top 200. And so already now I'm starting with, now I'm going to make a top 200 or 300, and maybe it gets to 1,000, I don't know. But anyway, it just keeps it, again, manageable. Sometimes my opinions of one book kind of can be influenced by the whole series. So here we are. There we go. I am including incomplete series, kind of just anything. My last kind of top 10 fantasy book video from, again, September of not last year, but the year before. I did kind of make the caveat that I had to at least have read one or two books, well, 2 books in the series to make it into the list. So anyway, don't have that this time, just kind of anything goes, just the top 100. And again, if the series is mentioned, only one book. In my top 100, again, these are books I enjoyed, so it's not like, I mean, I was realizing, I mean, at least Goodreads says in the 700s of books. It's probably more. Those are the ones that I could remember when I started actually keeping track. This is a really just fun, this is a fun series that I did. This is number 100. Fun series that I read with my son, and actually he beat me to it, but as usual. Sea of Monsters, so this is actually the Percy Jackson series. Percy Jackson, they're really fun, they're really well done. They made for a good bonding experience with my son. You know, what more could I ask for? It is, you know, it's a middle grade series or young adult, whatever you want to call it. Probably young adult, err on that side. And again, it has a lot of those tropes. Those tropes are there for a reason, but it also has some great, you know, gods and whatnot and mythos, and actually help my son. He knows way more about this, and especially in school when they go over it, he's like, oh yeah, I know Hephaestus and blah blah blah. He already knows it all. I know we have the rest of that series, but my kids must have squirreled it away or taken it with them somewhere. So those are the 2 that I could find. Speaking of incomplete series in my hands, I have at least 2 of the 3. Number 99, we're going with His Dark Materials by Philip Pullman. This is a good one. It starts good. I think it gets even better than with The Subtle Knight, and then Subtle Knight, Knife, and then The Amber Spyglass was kind of jumped the shark for me. I think, you know, I had close people around me that were just saying that the Golden Compass was just the best ever, and I think I read it took me too long to read it. I didn't read it at the right time, all kinds of factors. And then the hype was too much because I was expecting a lot more. It was good. It was still good, and it made number 99 at least. So there we go. Number 98, this will not be the first time you'll see Jim Butcher on this list. I actually got rid of all the books. And this is one where it started really strong. The first 3 or 4 books I really liked of the Codex Alera, starting with The Furies of Calderon. They were really good, and then by books 5 and 6, I kind of just finished to get done. And so kind of with the mix of all of them, all 6 books, I figured, again, 98 I think is fair enough. It's not my favorite in the world, but it was good. It was a good, solid series, and I think a lot of people, especially fantasy fans, will like it. But if you're like me, it just kind of got old after a while, I guess. I just kind of had to get through it to be like, all right, I'm already 5 books in, I better just finish the series. Number 97 is The Belgariad by David Eddings. This is a classic fantasy series. Here's book 1, Pawn of Prophecy. Back in the day, these would be all over the bookshelves for ages. This was like the standard of, at least starting out. I call it beginner fantasy. It's a good way to start out, but I will say the characters are pretty cardboard. They're, I have fond memories of the series because I really liked it. And then the Malorian, which is the sequel, 5-book series to this, is like, hey, let's do the exact same thing all over again with the same characters. So anyway, it's but again, lots of nostalgia here. I really enjoyed it. I loved it at the time, but again, I can also realize, like, I guess Belgarath is gonna be angry and surly, and he's always that. That's characterization. All right, number 96. Now, this is one, I do have all 3 books in the trilogy, but they're a little mismatched. So this is going to be The Sword of Shannara. I like calling it Shannara. I know some call it Shannara or Shannarana Ding Dong. Maybe no one calls it that. And this is one that it's, if you like Lord of the Rings and you're not afraid of reading something that's kind of just that again and want that again, but not quite told as magically, but still told pretty dang well and really like in a good way. So I have all 3 of those. I think the best one is Elves of Shannara, but I do actually still need to read this one. Have them all, and they're good. They're entertaining. They get the job done. And again, I think Brooks is owed a lot for fantasy fans in just keeping fantasy books alive and making that a real thing that more authors could then enter into and do their own spins on things. And that's kind of how we ended up where we are today. A lot of respect for this. Do not recommend reading First King of Shannara, which is the prequel book, because it almost turned me off of the whole series. I read that first. I happened to just have it, so I read it, and it was so much tell without showing. So I was like, this guy's super bad. Watch out, he's super bad. Okay, he's bad, and we're gonna show the bad things, or we're gonna just keep talking about it. Oh, this guy, he's really good at fighting and stuff, and watch out because he's a good fighter. Does he do that? These are actually much better than that one. All right, number 95, we're going with the Shades of Magic, the V.E. Schwab trilogy here. Book 1, A Darker Shade of Magic. I've got book 2 here, and I don't know where book 3 went off to. This is actually an ARC copy, pretty cool. And this is one I'm kind of judging the whole trilogy, and that's why it didn't make it higher on my list. But again, it's a top 100. It's all books that I liked a lot. I loved Darker Shade of Magic, and then it kind of gets into hey, what if we had a big competition? What do we all have to do? Harry Potter and kind of YA-ish books. Just seems like it kind of drives me nuts a little bit, or Hunger Games or whatever. It's like, we've all got our competition now, and so that's where I was like, really? I don't know. That's where we ended up with this. It just kind of seemed a bit a weird way to go, but anyway. It's still a really great series and highly recommended. All right, then we got number 94, Island in the Sea of Time, S.M. Sterling. This is it's kind of cool. It's suddenly this kind of, I don't know, whole city, but it's a small town. The whole thing ends up in the distant past, and they have to figure out how to survive. So it's kind of cool. Anyway, and the whole island of Nantucket. Any Wings fans? I used to watch that. That's the only thing I know from Nantucket. But anyway, this is kind of the beginning of what ends up being this series, which is, I think, a lot more popular. But if you've seen this one, The Dies the Fire, I think it's called The Change. Anyway, but this is just kind of book 1. It was really good. It's very complex, and again, made me want to keep reading into that series. The characters were a little rough, but I think because they were done really realistically. So that's why I'm like, I need to go in and read the next, the sequels and whatnot. All right, number 93. This is not a series that I see a lot around, but I really enjoyed this. This was from my blogging days. This was my first review copy that I received, and then some of my first advanced review copies, as you'll see here. But it was Shadow Sun, Shadow Saga by John Sprunk. Really cool. I love this, the Michael Comark illustration here. Really cool, and it's really cool. Like, it's, you know, and it's an assassin with the heart of gold story. As much as or as little as you believe that. Shadow's Lure is the second book, and then Shadow Master. And again, these are the advanced reading copies that were pretty cool to have. I just love the covers, but also really good. What was it? Caim? C-A-I-M. I remembered. So still remember this fondly. Very good, good series. Highly recommended. Again, if you need that itch scratched for a good like assassin, but with a heart of gold kind of series. All right, number 92. I'm going with the Mither Mages series by Orson Scott Card. This is a series that I really, really enjoyed, especially the first book. It's got this really cool magic system. Like the main guy can create like these gates. And you can kind of like make your way through this gate to like anywhere, almost like Jumper, if you've seen that movie or read those books. But also it like heals you, but also you can kind of use them in conjunction with each other. Almost, I don't know, I like some of these that kind of use like that like computer lingo or kind of computer logic that in kind of creating some of these things or utilizing them, not unlike the three body problem. But anyway, Mither Mages, it was really good. It's, there's like, it's really good, and then there's like lots of exposition and to kind of get you up to speed on where the world is, and then it's like, okay, then book 2, you're like, all right, we got to be kind of done with that exposition, right? Let's utilize this, let's move on, and then it's like, still a lot of exposition, and then book 3, you're like, okay, we've got to know like most of the things here, and it's like, and we're still going to go into a healthy amount of exposition. And so it was like, okay, I just, you know, eventually like it kind of just gets bogged down in its own like world, but it is a cool concept. It's really interesting. Anyway, and a fun series to read. Number 91, I'm going to go with House of Blades and the whole trilogy that I'm blanking on right now by Will White. It is really a fun series. I really enjoyed it. Almost like if only there were more. Anyway, I think they might be related in some way or in the same world as Cradle. I don't know, maybe not. But I love Cradle. I'm a huge Cradle fan. But House of Blades just was really fun. It's a really cool and interesting way to approach like magic, kind of like you have to get through this like house, at least in one case, that kind of challenges you along the way to like get kind of certain magical artifacts or even levels or whatever. Anyway, it was really cool. Not to mention, it's kind of like, you know, what if we're not following the main guy, like the prophesied guy? What if it's another guy? So that's 100 through 91 of my top 100 fantasy books. What are you thinking? Is anything new standing out to you? I feel like I've read a lot of random stuff that not everybody's read. I've also not read necessarily all the newest stuff either. So that kind of like, you know, it finds its way in there. I've read a healthy amount of newer things. But anyway, what are your thoughts? Anyway, I'm going to keep going with this. We're going to have more. I'm going to try to keep this on a weekly basis so you get each of the 10. It was the hardest part was coming up with that list. Then the second hardest part was trying to find the books that I at least still own that are on that list, and then showing and being able to display them and collect them and everything together. So anyway, thank you so much for stopping by. Thanks for liking and subscribing, and we'll catch you later. Bye.